Today I spoke about the relationship of value and phenomena, and what I argued was that value, contrary to what I call the standard view of the relation of value and phenomena, does not actually come second to phenomena. The standard view holds that we think and evaluate the world only as a secondary process. So first we determine what is. We determine that an action is jealousy or stealing, or even we determine a representation as being a triangle or a square, or a three-sided drawing as being a triangle or square. And then we evaluate it. We say either jealousy is good or bad, or we say that stealing is good or bad, or that the triangle is well or poorly drawn. And in that sense, we think of value as a secondary attachment and interpretation that follows what is first an identification process. So first we have to identify, for example, what emotion, say affect, we're feeling, whether it's jealousy or inspiration, and then we can evaluate it. So the idea of the standard view is, first we really need to know what that thing is, before we can then evaluate it. In my talk, I present a couple challenges to this view. One is from Nietzsche, who says that if value, to summarize, if value is secondary, then it has to be arbitrary. If it's secondary, then value can't inhere in the object or perception itself, because otherwise we would grasp that value in the same moment that we apprehend that concept or identity, or that what is. It doesn't make sense that we would grasp what is in terms of shape and color and size, and then we would grasp this other property, value somehow, if it inhered in the object. But he says if it doesn't, if it's an external attachment, which he thinks it is, then it's an arbitrary one. Then it has nothing to do with the world itself. So our perceptions of what the world is in fact completely value neutral. That evaluations are things that we as individuals attach, but that they can't have any fundamental authoritative or prescriptive force. They can't have any genuine authenticity, because they have nothing to do with our determination of what is. Now, I presented a second alternative in which I argued that, in fact, this also runs into problems, because even for Nietzsche, he acknowledges that we can't experience the world actually as without value, that even our perceptions of things are already invested with affect, that we see the world, that we, as Heidegger would say, we care about the world. That's the condition for the possibility of things showing up in the world to us. And so I want us to think about, how is it possible that value can be there from the beginning, but not as a secondary attachment, but also not as something that belongs inherently to objects? And so I presented Saussure's notion of the concept of linguistic value. And in Saussure, he has an idea that value is actually what allows identities to be distinct. That it's because of value as a differentiating force that we can identify, say, a triangle from a square, and jealousy from inspiration. And what I do is I talk about some of the conditions and what that means for value. And one of the things is that I think that it means that we don't first determine what is. We don't first have this notion of a representation. What we do have instead are identities that are differentiated not by what they are in relation to some truth about the world, or even our phenomenological stance, but evaluatively related to each other. That is to say that identities of objects as they come into appearance are both negatively and positively related by value. And therefore, for example, what a triangle is also not a square, but at the same time, a triangle is also an improper square. That it is always also not what it is in an evaluative sense. And it's that distinction, an evaluative distinction, that is what allows for us to distinguish the identities of perceptions